Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
Larry Hugh Allen, Donald Leroy Anderson Jr., Scotty Gene Austin, Henry Dennis Babers, David Wallace Baker, Harrison Bruce Ball, Robert Franklin Barber, Terry Lee Barkus, Michael Richard Bartell, James Terrence Bain, David Roland Beatty, Robert James Beck, David Eugene Benson, James Betancourt, Harold Alvin Bird, Elmer Lee Boatman, John William Boyer, Frank Boynton, Joseph Simon Braven, Robert Portner Breeden, Ronald Lewis Brown, Joe Mack Brown, Gary Lee Browning, William Earl Bruster, John Allen Bryan, George Elmer Burchett, Bradley James Carson, Wallace Spurgeon Carter, Curtis Roy Klein, Calvin Kermit Kuhn, Danny Carroll Cravens, Herschel Dwayne Cood Jr., Albert Joseph Dare, Guilford Frank Dashner, Brian Joe DeMello, Patrick A. Deck Jr., Stephen William Decker, Mac Dennard Jr., Herbert J. Dexter, John Francis Downey Jr., James Camel DuPont, Edward Stephen Duffett, James Henry Duffett Jr., Raymond James Enners, Johnny William Faircloth, Walter Henry Fennell, Edward Harold Fox, Charles Lloyd Freeman, James Omer Fryman, Joe Angel Galvez, Pedro Gallardo Garcia, Gerald Daly Geoghegan, Ernest K. Gerhardt, Richard Anthony Giuliani, Robert Edward Gray, Ralph Laverne Green, Michael Jim Hall, Wayne Allen Hayes, Herschel Pittman Helm Jr., Keith Richard Henriksen, Leroy Hicks, William Russell Heinerman, Paul Allen Holk, David Lee Holman,
Robert Lawrence Janowitz, Aaron Gilbert Johnson, Kenneth Lee Jones, Thomas Charles Jonazo, Paul James Nealand, Randall Lee Kruger, Albert Kalahana Cueva, Robert William Lebrecq, Walter Neville Levy, Arthur Lewis, Freddie Leon Lowry, Paul David Lucas, Christopher Ducher Lucci, Gilbert Merrill Maestas, Joseph Edmund Mazzanti, James Raymond McCoy, Chester McDaniel, Timothy James McMahon, Joe Linnell Meek, Vernon Elihu Miller, Stephen Peter Miller, Ernest Lee Miller, Johnny Robert Miller, Vincent Francis Murphy, Robert Wayne Napier, James Peter Nard III, MacArthur Nichols, Stephen Michael Ort, Amos Roy Osborne, Todd Whitney Ottman, Luca William Palma, Edgar Lewis Peterson, Jr., Robert Edwards Rawls, Thomas Francis Regan, Edward Lee Reynolds, Jerry David Rice, Lonnie Jr. Robbins, William D. Robinson, Jr., Elmo Rosario Salaberios, Jimmy Henry Rowlett, Danny Ray Rundle, Paul E. Ritter, Florentino John Santana, Joseph Saracom, Dwayne Charles Schell, Alfred M. Schroeder, Jr., Dale Glenn Sievers, Jr., Paul Charles Searcher, James Dennis Slattery, Eugene Smith, J. B. Spearman, Anthony Standifer, Edward Charles Stadelman, Gary Ennis Straker, Larry Dale Strauss, Isaac Taggart, Roynald Edward Taylor, Philip Earl Taylor, Fred Rost Tice, Thomas James Tolliver, John Wayne Tracy, Walter Otho Trammell, Larry Lee Truesdale, Jackie Allen Toohey, Donald Eugene Turner, Jerry Dwayne Underwood, Gerald Vincent Van Winkle, Craig Arthur Vestines, John Paul Weiss, Leonard Frederick Vogt Jr., Larry Edward Washington, Cordis Ray White, Kermit Lewis Williams, Richard Frank Williams, Dwayne Thomas Williams, Lawrence C. Williams, Jr., Johnny Paul Winfrey, Dennis Edward Witkowski, Michael Edward Zabura, Jr.,